All right, welcome to today's show. I'm Joe,
I'm Tim.
and today we have a guest with us, and we are also streaming live. So if you listen to this on podcast, it'll be a recorded version of it, but nevertheless, here we are. Tim, why don't you go ahead and fill us in on our guest?
Well, David is someone I met probably over 6 months ago now. Met him in drug court. We become friends. He's a good guy, and he has a story to tell that I think is going to be eye-opening for a lot of our audience out there. And again, getting back to the Facebook Live version, element of this, if you do have any questions for him as we're going along, shoot them our way. But yeah, welcome to the show, David.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, welcome, David.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
This topic is probably going to shock a lot of people. I think it's something that a lot of people are not aware of, but yet it is almost becoming pretty common. I mean, starting to anyway.
It shocked me, and before we zero in on it, can you give us a little bit of a background with your history with drug addiction?
Yeah. My addiction started probably when I was like 23. It's about 15 years I've been in active opioid addiction. It started out with pain medicine, from a doctor, and then from that to the streets. And then like 5 years later, I ended up finding heroin. And then the past 10 years have been pretty solid heroin use.
You inject?
Yes, IV. Yep.
Where do you usually buy it from?
Detroit, usually. Down in the city. Yeah, because I was born and raised down there, so I moved up here as a teenager.
So you're familiar with the area down there. You know what's
Look,
what.
that was the back of my hand. Yeah.
East side?
East side, west side, southwest, all over the city.
Yeah. Not that it's
Yeah.
Not that it's relevant.
overly
No,
relevant, but as a
Yeah.
covering addict myself, I'm just
Right.
curious sometimes.
And then,
The answer is never like Milford,
right.
No,
It's always
No.
Detroit, Flint, or Pontiac.
Right.
Although every town has its issues.
Every town has its addicts and issues, but most towns have problems with drug users more than
supply.
more of a demand. Yeah, exactly. So you 15 years, you said you started
Yeah.
around 23. You're 38 now. You said mostly opiates.
Yeah,
It-
mostly.
Devolved into heroin
Mhm.
use, IV use.
Yes.
Any other drugs? Did you?
Yeah, I did some cocaine and some, crack and stuff like that. Experimented with pretty much everything, but opiates seemed to be my thing, is what I stuck to. But
It's so familiar to my own story because I got a script from a doctor in my early 20s, and then I spent the better part of 15 years as an opioid addict. I never did inject, but regardless, I did heroin for a long time like you did.
Mhm.
So there's so many parallels there, and here we are now, both in drug court, two of six people in the county's drug court.
Yes, sir.
So there's so much commonality here. And even in the part we're about to get into a little bit more, we share this experience too. But I'll go ahead and let you just kind of drop that on the audience. What is it specifically that kind of led to the twists and turns here?
Okay, so I got in some legal troubles, back in 2018, and I knew there was going to be some ramifications to that. So I was, researching other things I could do to still use and get away with it, while drug testing and things like that. And
Every addict's dream.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
do it. We're
Yeah.
all, until we're ready to quit, it's always about how can I get around this obstacle? As
Yeah.
opposed to change, it's what can I do to get away with it?
right. I know that thought didn't even cross my mind. You just stop doing. You try to get help. It was, how can I still maintain this lifestyle, while being in trouble with with law. And then so I did some research, and I found out that there's a common a drug that's found just about everywhere. That is an opioid that not many people know about, and that's Imodium IS. It's an anti-diarrheal drug, and it's a fully synthetic opioid, and it's kind of skates under the drug tests for the most part, but there's other problems that come with that, like false positives and things like that.
But
go ahead.
It's illegal. I mean, it's legal.
Yeah,
It's
It's a
everywhere.
legal high.
it's a legal high, and my experience was very much again similar. I did my research online. You go to all the message boards, the Reddits and the Arrowwits, and you find out. In some places, the Imodium is considered like poor man's methadone. So
Right.
I think maybe the majority of people who will use it do so to quell withdrawal.
Right.
And in
Generally.
your situation, again, you're looking for a way around drug tests. So you're trying to,
Right.
yeah, right. So those would be the two primary reasons. What's scary about it is like a recommended dose of it is like 2 milligrams,
Right.
and a maximum daily allotment is somewhere between like 12 and 16. They say
Right.
don't take more than 12 or 16.
Right. See
So,
that
so one of our questions as we're streaming live from one of our fans
Mhm.
is, have you guys ever been in jail together?
As a matter of fact,
And I'm assuming
Yes, we have.
Yep, you
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that question stems from the fact that you're both participants in drug court.
yeah. And
Yes.
it was frustrating for me because I watched him sleep.
Yeah.
I could not sleep, and there were times it appeared that he was sleeping like a baby. He'll tell you he couldn't.
Yeah.
He did. I'm the one
Yeah.
who couldn't.
Yeah.
I looked on jealously, but yes, as a matter of fact, we have.
So on that note, we're gonna give a shout out to some of our fans here. Megan.
Hi,
Peace
Megan.
out, Megan. Lee. What's going on, Lee? Katrina and Georgia.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching, everybody. That's just a few of
Appreciate
them. But yeah, before we go too far, I just kind of want to read, for those of the people that don't know what Imodium is.
Right.
Because I have never had needed it, right? So I wouldn't really know.
Lucky you.
Lucky me, right? Right. But it's a diarrhea medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it treats diarrhea, and it can also decrease the amount of drainage in patients with ostomies. So that gives you an idea of what it is, and everybody knows you can get it over the counter. There's no prescription needed. There's no dealer needed. It's walk in any store and buy at will.
It's fairly cheap.
Yeah.
Well, so
What does a box cost?
Depending where you go, like a box of like say 72 tablets, you can pick up for $4 or $5.
Wow. And
there was a time though where you could get like 500 for like $5, like not that long ago. The price is going up like anything else with supply and demand, and what you're starting to see now is they're putting anti-theft devices on it.
Yeah.
Because people are stealing it.
So they know.
Yes.
Yes.
They're figuring it out.
They know. The
society
pharmaceutical
is catching up with us on this.
Well, not only society, but just pharmaceutical companies have figured it out.
Yeah.
Supply and demand.
They're probably dancing. They're probably happy. Like, hey, who knew?
Let's
look at this. Legal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were talking about how like a maximum would be 12 to 16. You really have to take about 50 milligrams, in my experience, before you start feeling those analgesic effects, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't really cross the blood-brain barrier like a normal opioid does. So you kind of have to megadose to overpower it, so some of it will cross.
Exactly. You take so much of it that you just flood your body with it that you can't help but to catch a buzz, basically.
Yeah, a small amount will cross.
The trick with it is first-time users, you can die of a heart attack.
Yes.
It interferes with like the electrical system in your heart, right?
It causes your heart to go into AFib. It can be.
So it's not something to fool around with. It's actually very dangerous. So we're not out like endorsing like, hey, this is a great alternative. It's not a harm reduction thing. And I'm expressed like pro harm reduction sentiment in the past when it comes to things like Suboxone, but not this. Don't toy with this.
It's dangerous.
I think we need to make that very clear at this point that a lot of people don't know, as we were talking about, they don't know that Imodium has that impact. A few of our listeners have stressed that.
Yeah, the health impact is it's devastating.
And in no way are we endorsing that.
No.
We are, I guess if you're an addict, please just turn off the podcast.
Well, I mean, just
we're not trying to encourage someone
No,
to.
it's too late now.
Yeah,
But
but at that point, we want parents and people that are caring for people that are going through recovery, just to be aware of it, because it is an upcoming.
yeah, it's
thing.
going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have any doubts about whether or not we're endorsing this, just keep listening to David's story, because it has a quite a scary turn.
And it's not something we would endorse.
No, absolutely not.
So you took Imodium for years, right?
For
Couple anyway.
about 2 years.
Yeah.
close to it.
And what was like the most you ever took in a single day?
Towards the end there was sometimes up to 300,
That is insane.
Wow, that's a ton.
like 150 twice a day.
Like
It's
your
crazy.
Your throat had to hurt.
How many? So that's like 150 pills.
Because
Possibly.
your tolerance goes up like any other opioid. So
Like,
you have to,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you will go through withdrawal.
and yeah,
like
you
any
get sick
other
without
opioid.
it. It's just as addictive. Like
That is insane.
Yeah.
if you do it for a while, you'll notice the same withdrawal symptoms as like other opioids.
Yeah.
You know? Same
Yeah.
symptoms.
And it's a kind of a long acting drug too, like
Right.
Suboxone or methadone. So the withdrawal gets kind of drawn out,
Mm.
Yeah.
and it hits you a little bit later. So
Right. Takes weeks to detox from that stuff, and it's awful.
now
I
there's
can imagine.
so you and I are both in drug court, and I don't want to, man, it's just like a whole nother podcast to be had about that and some of the other things we took, but we end up each doing a couple nights in jail or whatever, and they were strongly encouraging us to take Vivitrol,
They were, yes.
which we both are at this point in time, February of 2020, big proponents of,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Made a big difference in your life.
It's changed my life.
Me too.
For the better. I got it on this last month, and I feel like a totally new person.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
amazing, right? It's
I don't-
an amazing drug.
I don't wake up with no
Don't
kind
even
of
think about
cravings. It doesn't even cross my mind. And when I drink coffee and watch the news like normal people.
I try to tell people like what a huge burden it's taken off my shoulders. That most people just can't relate what it's like to like, it's freedom, right?
Yeah.
Unlike
it
we
is.
felt in years.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy you're on board with it, because I do try to be an ambassador for it for sure.
Yeah.
Joe does too. It's something we feel really strongly
Yeah,
about.
it's definitely like we've talked about many times before. The statistics just from the jail alone are they're incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's that big thing of being able to wake up in the morning, not have those cravings.
Yeah.
And
It's
be able
huge.
to go about life.
Concentrate on
Therapy, all those things that you need.
find a job, find a home,
Right.
repair relationships, just
Right.
wake up, drink coffee, and watch Sports Center.
Right.
You know?
That's a
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. However, whereas I got the Vivitrol shot and was off and running since last August,
Hmm.
you kind of got off to a rough start with it.
I did. Because I was, in drug court, getting, like false positives in my drug tests and things like that, and spending weekends in jail. And I got sick of doing that because I was working full time. And so I decided I was going to try give Vivitrol a shot. I was still using the Imodium daily. And I found I went to a clinic. I talked to a doctor. They asked me all the questions, and they gave me a drug test. I passed it, and they asked me if I wasn't taking anything. I told them no, and I lied to them.
You didn't mention that.
No, absolutely not. I didn't.
That's not a drug.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I was telling myself, like, well, the worst thing's going to happen is I get thrown into a withdrawal. I can handle that. I've had that
Major
before.
cognitive dissonance.
That's what. So it was
happening
like,
in that
yeah, like my brain's telling me like, oh, you're just going to withdraw. Like, no problem. I'm like, okay. So I go to the doctor. They didn't have a shot ready, which I'm kind of glad for at that point.
Gave you
because-
2 more days to dry out.
Right. And then I went to they gave me an oral dose of naltrexone, which is the active ingredient that's in Vivitrol, until my shot was ready. So I left the clinic. we went back to work. I had like an hour left to work. I took it at the end of the day, and I figured I had till I got home till I started feeling not good. But that wasn't the case. After taking the naltrexone with all that Imodium in my system, I ended up like instantly having a reaction. It would, my skin was on fire, and I was just sweating profusely, and I was a mess. I couldn't walk. My vision was going out. I was like, oh my God, I stumbled across my shop where I was working, and I tell my people, I'm like, you have to call an ambulance. I'm having a reaction to some medication. They call an EMS, and they're asking me what I took, and I'm having a hard time talking to them at this point because I can't see. I'm in I'm in rough shape at that point. So I go to they send me to the hospital, and I ended up falling out in the hallway on the stretcher. Kind of everything went black at that point. I wake up. What felt like just a few minutes passed. I wake up, my family's surrounding me, and I'm intubated. I have tubes on my throat. I'm covered in IVs. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, I ended up falling into a coma. I had acute heart failure. My heart stopped beating. They had to basically bring me back to life. They put me on life support for 2 weeks. And then I was in ICU for a whole month in ICU. And I had like all kinds of other stuff going on too. I ended up with pneumonia and brain swelling. So it was a hot mess. The doctors told my parents, they said that we don't think he's going to make it through the first 4 days. They said, we can't, he's not breathing on his own. We can't stabilize him. He's crashing pretty fast. And they basically warned my parents like the worst, like,
and I remember that.
Probably going to die.
I was in touch with your sister, and that's what
Yes.
she was saying to me. And I was like, oh my God.
That's
right?
insane.
Yeah. We were just in jail together.
Yeah.
We're talking Imodium, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking like.
Yeah, this is I had nothing in my system but Imodium IS.
Yeah.
And they took my blood, and they told me at the end of my hospital stay when I was pretty much recovering, they said that I had ended up having 600 milligrams of loperamide, which is the active ingredient of Imodium, in my bloodstream. Like, so basically the naltrexone unbound it all and brought it to a toxic level in my blood. And I overdosed from Imodium. That was my diagnosis: accidental overdose of Imodium.
That is crazy.
I know.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Now, and again, it's a good, I think, point to make is if the Vivitrol is amazing, but like anything, it's a tool to be responsible with, and you got to be honest with whoever is going to administer it to you.
Absolutely.
You got to grind through those 7 days or so before
You have to be ready.
you have to be
You
ready.
do.
Yeah. So don't think you can take a shortcut like addicts like to do. Oh, I haven't taken heroin in 36 hours. I'll be fine. You won't be fine.
No.
It will be horrible.
Like you could die.
We've
Literally.
never talked about precipitated withdrawal yet, I don't think, on this program, but someday we'll get there. It's the worst of the withdrawal.
We'll get there.
Right.
So from Imodium, so you had 600
milligrams, which is basically 300 tablets.
Yeah, I was going to say, you break that down as 300 tablets, right?
Yeah.
So in all reality, you could have just done heroin. It would have been A, a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And B, one could argue
Safer.
depending on the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's all to avoid
Failing a drug.
Yeah.
That was all basically so I could still have that an opioid in my system and skate by drug testing. That's insane to me now. I think about back on it now, and I almost I don't even know what I was thinking, because now I'm thinking a little more clearly these days.
It was, and it was eye opener for me. I never took 300 milligrams, but I was starting to toy around with that too, and because I was trying to get off Suboxone, and we both. And here's another show where we'll talk about kratom someday, because David and I did both kratom and loperamide to get off these things. And
Yeah.
it was a real eye opener when I saw what happened to him, because there were a few days last summer where I was like, oh, it's okay, it's helping me kick the box, and I'm doing the right thing. I'm in drug court. I'm moving forward.
Right.
And it was really easy to rationalize my use of it. Right, where as addicts, we're always trying to rationalize our poor decisions instead of just confronting them head on and being like, no, I shouldn't do this. I just need to grind through the withdrawal the right way instead of shortcutting it. But yeah, all of us in drug court, we were all just stunned.
Yeah, it was, after that hospital stay, I had to go to a cardiologist. I went from taking 0 medications daily to literally I have to take 10 pills a day now.
Wow.
And they have to check my heart to make sure there's not any permanent damage. Like I could have taken decades off my life. I don't even know yet. I'm still going through that process of
to be
making
determined.
sure I don't know if there's any damage to my heart yet, but I'm on heart medicine right now. I have to take it twice a day to keep my blood pressure down and everything else. And before this happened, I wasn't on anything. I mean, no medications.
For what it's worth, you look a lot better now.
Oh, I feel
you comparatively look healthy as a
million times better.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So was this like again, I just want to hit on this real quick.
Sure.
You actually went out of your way to research this.
Yeah, like I spent like days searching and scavenging and trying to find information.
It's almost like the laziest guy at work that will do 10 times the work
to not work. Yeah, that's a great analogy. But I didn't tell him about it, and he didn't tell me about it. We both confronted similar circumstances, and there's these different. You've heard of Reddit, I'm sure. You may not have heard of Blue Light or Arrowwood. It doesn't take much to do a search and find these things, and you start reading these firsthand anecdotal accounts that people have, and you'll read like dozens of people saying, yes, this will help you avoid withdrawal.
Right.
So let's give it a shot. What do I have to lose, right?
Your life.
Yeah.
We
know that now, but the thinking, so like it's just another example of the ingenuity of a drug addict, where they will find, if there's a way to get high or a way to not be dope sick, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? So I have a question for you. Obviously you have the heart issues that you're going to possibly, if you're lucky, you won't have to deal with any long-term damage, but it's a possibility.
It is a possibility. Yeah.
So what does this do to your intestines? I mean, like,
this is what in my case, like over the course of a year and a half, I probably gained about 80 pounds because it slows your digestive tract to a crawl. Your body kind of adjusts itself to it, but it makes you retain tons of water. Like you bloat up with water because that's one of the actions of the medicine. So that's what caused my heart, like at the point of my overdose, my heart was already so weakened by congestive, heart failure or being congested with basically swimming in water.
And all that pressure around your heart.
Yeah. That's what did it. But the stomach, it does make, it definitely works on your intestines pretty hard. Like now I have ulcerative colitis from it, which is another thing I'm probably gonna have the rest of my life.
Right.
It's a thinning of the intestinal walls, and that's from all that.
Yeah. It definitely does some serious damage.
Yeah.
But who would have thunk?
Well, yeah. And one thing, Dave, I find and I give credit to my older brother, Andy, for this attitude. He told me a few years back, if you go through things like you have and you learn from them and you grow, then that's great. And maybe in the end they were worth it. But if you take that extra step and you share them, then they really truly begin to have value, right? Because life isn't about us, it's about others. And the fact that you can sit here today and share your experiences with other people, it's just, who knows who you're going to help with it.
Right.
But because a lot of people,
for sure.
Yeah, and there's going to be people who are looking at that short-term effect, and they're not going to understand or maybe not even know about those long-term effects.
Yeah.
And, you were lucky.
I was lucky. There's no way I should have. Doctors even said the hospital held a board meeting for my case because they said no one's ever came in that situation.
That's like I said,
So-
who would have thunk?
Yeah.
Right? Imodium.
And you know, those message boards that we talk about where we glean this information from, nobody goes on there and says, update, I'm fucking dead now
Right.
because of my use. Like, you don't get those stories.
No.
So you have to share this.
Yeah.
And thank you
I-
for sharing it here
Yeah.
because they're not, it's not easy to find those things. You know, we recently
Right.
had somebody on the show who talked about how she lost someone near and dear to her. And I think, you know, we want to have these stories about recovery and lift people up with this podcast, but we have to be measured in the way we do it too. We have to like show the other side of it.
Sure.
It's unfortunate that the other side is there, but it is. And these are the things like your story
Mhm.
is probably a shock to most of our listeners. I would have to say
Yes.
a majority of them are going to be like I was, like, Imodium, like, really?
Yeah. How long have you known about it, Joe?
Probably 4 to 5 months,
Yeah,
maybe.
Really?
Not-
It's about almost as long as us. It's getting to be a thing. You know, real quick, I want to say too, your sister just said, I'm so proud of your recovery. At
She's
this point.
she's one of the biggest fans.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have her in my
You
life.
know, it's those little things that really
Yeah.
like help us keep going forward, whether people realize it or not. Like, and addiction is a disease of isolation, and it's
It
lonely. And when we first get into recovery and do the right thing, it's not like all our cheerleaders come flocking back at once and tell us how great we're doing.
You got to earn that back.
You got to earn it back.
Yeah.
It's slow to come sometimes. So those little messages there can mean a lot. They can
Absolutely.
be hard to come by at first. So.
Yeah, and that's very important that once you've proven yourself, and we like to say all the time, your words really don't mean anything. Your actions
Right.
dictate your intentions. And obviously, when you're getting comments like that during our live show, you've come quite a ways.
Yeah, my whole family's probably watching right now.
That's
Well, you know,
great.
addicts are so good at sifting through just bullshit. Like, we're just
Yeah.
so good at reading people and situations. And the difference between David is night and day. And it was so easy to see. Like, when we saw him when he got released a couple weeks back, just like, you know, it's like all of a sudden, like, you know, Gandhi was among us. He just seemed so at peace compared to where he was. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
he was a tormented addict back in August, and just it's inspiring to see.
Absolutely. And the whole insanity of this whole situation is even after I nearly died in the hospital, 2 weeks after I left the hospital, like I actually started taking it again. Like it just almost put me in my grave, and I started taking it again. Like,
Wow.
it's insane. You know, it's
Yeah.
insane. And then you know, the courts caught on to it, and they said enough's enough. We're gonna lock you up for, you know,
It's
a
the
little
power
while.
of addiction.
Yeah,
Something
I'm
that
grateful for
almost
that.
killed you. You went right back to.
Right.
Yeah,
back to it.
right back to it. It literally almost put me in my grave, and I went right back to it.
It's
That's
power. It's the
that's
power
insane.
of it. Yeah.
So you're. Go ahead.
No, just thinking back on it now, it's like when I was doing it, I wasn't. It seems nuts to me now, but at the time it was like it wasn't. But you know what I mean. But that's in all addiction, I guess.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know, like looking, it was emotional for a lot of us in drug court. Like, and it was for me looking from the outside looking in when you got put in jail.
Yeah,
Some of us were like, man, that's so harsh. Like, if anybody deserves a break, it's this guy. This guy almost died. Like, the emotional trauma he must have, the PTSD and all that from being in a coma. Like, man, like, don't
They're
throw
just-
him in jail.
They're just throwing a cherry on top, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, we all knew that it was a possibility that it was what you needed.
yes.
And so we're just waiting to see the outcome at that point. Like, you know, we don't know. It's like in God's hands now. So to see you come out of that jail and be the person you are today,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, the judge got it right. They got
Yes.
it right.
Exactly. So just so our listeners know, because you and Tim, you and I know, but so you started taking it again after almost dying.
Yeah, after I moved out of the hospital, I started. As soon as like I had to, it took me about a week or two to be able to walk on my own again. I was literally like walking with a walker.
Yeah, we saw.
You know?
Yeah,
So take us from there to how the chain of events happened to where you're sitting at this table right now, trying to enlighten people.
Right. So I started taking it again, and then and they also gave me some medications I wasn't supposed to take, from the hospital. They gave me some Suboxone and Valium to take home. And at that point, when I was left the hospital, I didn't really need it. But as an addict, I'm like, I'm feeling this.
Right.
So
You're gonna try.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get away with it.
Yeah. Try to tell the judge, it was from when I was in the hospital.
I
That's
got
what I
a
kept saying.
72 Cadillac, 20,000 miles on it. You want to buy it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Trying to sell her
Right.
some kind of, No, I took it 5 weeks ago. It just showed up.
Yeah.
So my levels were up and down with Suboxone and Valium, and then I had like another 4 false positives because of the Imodium after that.
Was it for sure Imodium then and not Kratom that caused those?
I think it was the Imodium, honestly, because I did some more research after I got out of the hospital to figure things, other things out, and come to find out, like on a structural level,
Very
like,
similar.
similar to fentanyl. So the body can confuse it for fentanyl and throw off basically metabolites for fentanyl, so they would detect the metabolite, not the drug. So it'd be a false positive.
Gotcha.
And which
Yep.
should say something to people. It can be confused with fentanyl
Yeah.
somehow, some way. It's
Somewhere.
not good.
No.
Yeah, it's like the same scientists that made fentanyl made Imodium.
Wow.
The same scientists.
Imagine that.
So
Yeah.
And back in the back in the 70s, it was a controlled substance when it came out in the 60s.
Imodium?
Yeah, it was a Schedule 5 controlled substance.
Wow. So
It
you
was
had to
descheduled
be, it had to be
72, I think.
prescribed.
Yeah, when it
Wow.
first came out. Yeah. So
That's insane.
I go in front of the judge, and I'm trying to feed him a bunch of BS to not go to jail, but so they ended up putting me in for 90 days. And actually, there's a little more of that story too. Like I was supposed to go to TRICAP, do like 14 days in TRICAP.
So that's a rehab.
Yeah, TRICAP. So
Locally.
it's like an MDOC
Yep.
program that you have to be sentenced to. So I did my 14 days. I went to TRICAP. I took a few drug tests, and one of those tests came up, positive for benzos, and they ended up kicking me out of there, and I go back to jail for because that was the deal, that or 90 days. So I went back to Lapeer County Jail, did my 90 after that. So it was about 105 days. I got out at like January 22nd. I got out, and while I was in jail, I was, I went to the Vivitrol orientation.
Did you see me there?
Yeah, I actually went to two of them in there. I saw you in there.
I'm pretty raw with the guys.
Yeah, but that's what they need though.
Was
Yeah.
he? Is that how he is?
Yeah, he's pretty
That's
straight
fine.
and to
Because
the
I've
point.
only
like,
seen one side. I've
he
seen
doesn't
the one
sugarcoat
side
it.
of the joke.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he
You
hasn't
don't
seen. Yeah, he hasn't seen me
No, I haven't seen.
in action yet.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he don't sugarcoat it. He tells you like it is.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
someone
it's-
needs to, right?
So I got hooked up with the Vivitrol program in jail, and the week before I got released, they gave me my first injection, and everything was, I have to say I was really nervous when I got that injection. I was terrified because the last time I took the medication, I almost died. But
Right.
So
I knew this time that wouldn't happen because I didn't have any opioids.
You
in my
didn't have
system.
600 milligrams of Imodium
But
floating
still,
around.
there has to be a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah,
A little bit of fear,
Still,
though.
yeah.
So I got the shot in jail, and everything went smoothly. I didn't, and then when I got released, I couldn't believe the difference. Like I wake up, I don't like before all this. I wake up every morning and feel like I had to have something in me to get through my day. It wasn't a pact of like I can do this without using. It's like I have to find something to use in order to take care of what I have to take care of. And now I wake up and, like I said, I make coffee and I watch the news or something, and it's little things like that I'm grateful for, because before the first thing that came to my mind was, got to find some kind of fix to get through my
So
day.
you could honestly say, you could honestly make a point that being incarcerated saved your life.
Yes, like my first month in, I was bitter. I was angry. I was like, that judge doesn't know what she's talking about, this and that. You know what I mean?
Of course, you
You
took
know.
away your high.
You're right. And then I went through a little withdrawal process in jail, and then, after about a month in there, I really started thinking about things, and I had a few months to think. And in jail, you have a lot of time to think about things. And at this point, I'm grateful that I was sentenced to all that, and I'm grateful it happened, because I don't think I'd be alive right now if that hadn't happened. That's just to be honest. I don't think.
So you could say, being incarcerated, you were able to somewhat think a little clearer,
Yes.
prioritize maybe, and then you were offered the opportunity of Vivitrol, which you received prior to your release,
Yes, sir.
and that all enabled you to kind of get where you're at.
Yeah. And now now I have a mindset where I put my recovery first. I go to counseling. I go to meetings. I go to drug court. I go there every week, and I wake up, put my game face on every day. I don't. That's a great feeling to have. I mean, at this point, the Vivitrol, I feel like saved my life. At this point,
That feeling, I think, is freedom and hope.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're one of our 95% success.
I'm glad
whatever,
too.
Yeah.
I'm glad too.
Yeah, and no matter like how much damage you may have done to your body, you're alive, right?
Absolutely.
You're still in the game,
Absolutely.
and hopefully your health wasn't too compromised.
Right.
Most of us who go through what you and I have gone through, we got to know that to an extent. We're probably on borrowed time at some point, right? But hey, we're alive, we're here, and again, having that freedom and that hope means everything.
It does. I mean, it's. I am definitely feel like I'm a different person than I was before I went to jail. That's what changed things for me. Is sitting there. I needed time to sit there and think, and it gave me that. That's for sure.
So in my profession, we like to hear that because we were just talking earlier. Tim and I were about. I think Mom is listening. Let me scroll through here. Yes, she is. And without making it too obvious, her daughter's in jail right now. Went to the Vivitrol program.
Sure.
She's been in 22 days, I think, right now. Gets sentenced within a week, and of course, she came in high. So of those 22 days, take about 7 away for detox.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't feel that she's had the time to actually be able to process everything.
Yeah.
She's saying the right things. She's doing the right things in jail. She's going, to all the classes. And I like to stress this. When you get to jail initially, you are cornered.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You have no choice but to either go participate and try to convince yourself, or you sleep all day.
Right.
Those are your choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she is taking full advantage of the classes, religious services, all those things that are great positives while you're incarcerated.
Good.
I just feel that she needs more time. Friday during the Vivitrol, I told her, I believe you should go to the judge next week and beg for 30 more days.
Yeah, it takes time for your head to come out of that fog, even after you stop using, because your mind's, even after your blood's clean and your body's clean of a substance, your mind still wants it. Like it's still craving it.
Right.
And your thoughts aren't
That's when,
rational.
And I try to explain this, especially coming off of like Suboxone, which is such a long acting drug, and the withdrawal is so much longer than heroin. People would say after 4 or 5 days, like, oh, you got it beat. Like, why did you go back? It's like, I didn't have it beat. My body was still detoxing from it, but like my mind was totally 100%. Like, still, I want it. Like, it's not just the physical side of it. There's the psychological side of it, which is a much higher hurdle, in fact.
Yeah, so all we can hope is she has to know herself, right? She's got to know where she's at in that spot. She is getting the Vivitrol.
Good.
And that's going to obviously benefit her.
Absolutely will.
Yeah. And let's just hope we see positive results.
Yeah,
right?
Sure thing.
Always
here in a meeting.
Yep. And in no way or form do I want to discourage her. I'm just giving her the advice based off of what I've seen. And I do believe she's mentally a little bit more ready than a lot of people would be at that point in time. But I just think with everything that went on in her life prior to being incarcerated, she should probably take that extra time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt.
It was a game changer for me. Time is what I needed. I needed to sit and, in jail, all your decisions are kind of made for you. You don't have to do anything in the outside world, so I'll just be there.
Yeah, her mom just actually punched in and said she feels the same way I do about her daughter. So we'll just keep close tabs on her. I know Mom is behind her 100,000%.
That's good.
We
Family's
all
important.
Yeah. So, we really appreciate you coming out and telling
thanks
your
for-
story.
Very
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, but
Thanks
we're
for
going to
having
give
me.
you a chance to give some shout out to those people that helped you along the way and support you to this day.
Okay. Yeah, my family has been very supportive. My sister, which I think she's listening right now, and my mom, my dad, even my brother Eric, and I have a couple like childhood friends that have been really that have never given up on me. And I've given them every reason to give up on me. They never did, and I'm grateful for that. Definitely.
And I'm sure they're so happy to see you making progress. And
They are.
We always say it's one thing when an addict in recovery or an addict talks about wanting to make progress and actually making progress.
Right.
And I think with you, we see you have made progress, and you sound like you have everything,
Yep,
right where you need it right now.
I do. I have a big support system going on, not just with my family, but like through counseling. Like I stress out on people, like counseling can be a big game changer. It's helped me a ton. You can't. Sometimes pride gets in our way. We think we can handle it. We put ourselves here so we can fix it, and you can't fix it alone. You can't.
What's
I
next?
tried.
What's next for you? You've come a long way. What's
Next, I'm gonna basically I'm gonna get my independence, get all my independence back, and lead a normal, healthy life, and try to help another addict on the way.
That's awesome.
That's awesome for sure.
And like I said, this topic we're talking about is not something that a lot of people are aware of, and it's dangerous. It's so it almost cost me my life. I almost died.
Yeah, when Tim brought that up as you being a guest, it was something that I think we both felt strongly about getting out there.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is.
I think I've said it like 10 times throughout the whole show. Imodium, right? Imodium.
Yeah, something that it's over the counter, and it can be deadly. Absolutely.
So stay away from Imodium unless your doctor advises.
Yeah.
Right.
And take it as advised.
Take it as directed.
Yeah. So with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys.
And
appreciate having me.
thanks for everybody tuning in to our live show tonight. And like I said, if you didn't catch it live, you'll catch it on our podcast. We'll get that up for you here soon. And with that, we'll part ways. I'm Joe.
Okay.
I'm Tim.
I'm Dave.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.